today we found out that Richard Donner indeed passed away today at the age of 91. And he had some stellar movies that he directed, such as both Superman movies, The Goonies, Lethal Weapon, and a whole lot more. It's just all I could fit on the screen. But I mean, guys, what can you say about the work that Richard Donner has done in his career? Ryan, we'll start with you.
Which one?
I mean, Richard. Which?
Rivera.
There we go. I think Richard was an incredible filmmaker. Superman 1 and 2, those are classic films. For me personally, one of my favorites is the first Lethal Weapon film. I mean, all the Lethal Weapon films are great, but the first film sticks out to me a lot. I really do love that film. The Goonies, of course, that's another classic film. My dad showed me that when I was young, and it was life-changing because, it was such a cool experience, like through the eyes of like a young kid in the 80s, something I never got to experience, but it was something like nostalgic I could somewhat share with like my dad when I watched that. Mm-hmm. And it was truly tragic to hear today. I was in the middle of doing some stuff and I got the notification on Twitter, and it's terrible because I don't know why, like hearing about like Lethal Weapon 5 updates, I was like, is Donner going to be around? And then when I found it, I was like, wow, like that's terrible. Like the fact that happened. So,
and that's why I kept 5 on there because he was still actively working on Lethal Weapon 5.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it on there because it's something that he was working on. But what about you, Allie?
Yeah, I mean, of course, first Superman movie for sure. But The Goonies has been one of my favorite movies. Like, I can't even remember the first time I watched, how old I was, but I was young. And even though I was born in the early 90s and I wasn't an 80s kid, but that was definitely one of my favorite movies growing up. Still one of my favorites. So yeah, my thoughts go out to his family, and just sorry to hear about that. But yeah, sad news.
And what about let's go to ACS. Let's skip Zero Fat. He should go first anyway. Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious. It's Superman's my dude, and first time I saw him in live action was because of Richard Donner. Put him on the screen. Probably part of the reason why. Like, I'm guaranteeing you, that's part of the reason why that I'm a big Superman fan. It's because of those first 2 movies, and then he put out like the Goonies. Dude, the Goonies is a fire. That's like a staple. I actually, 80s kids saw that shit in the theaters. So, that Lethal Weapons, like you said, Lethal Weapon, the first one is fire. The second one, I love the way they started it. But all the Lethal Weapon movies are fire. So yeah, man, he's gonna be missed. Shouts out to his family and friends, because you hate to see that. I was at work, shit hit my phone. I was like, oh man, you fucking kidding me? Like, so, but yeah, Richard Donner, that's my dude. Scrooge too. Remember Scrooge?
Scrooge.
Yes, I remember Scrooge.
Yes.
Did he do that one too with Bill Murray?
Yeah.
Damn,
So
that's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, he'll be missed, and dude, that shit sucks, man.
It sucks. I mean, a lot of these films really, like I said, it helped make sculpt the person I am today, because I watched so many of his films. Ryan. Not Rivera, but Ryan Zierfat. Yeah, we'll go back to Ryan.
I gotta take 2.
Yeah.
So I would love to. But I just
truffle.
The thing is that it's not the right settings, and it's not the right time, and so
right.
Hey, he made Andre do it before he let him in the house.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah. So Andre had to do the truffle shuffle while he was here. So shout out to to Richard Donner for making the truffle shuffle.
Actually, I didn't do the truffle shuffle. I did this instead.
That was more Anthony after we were drinking, and
no. Hey, you're mistaken.
You're mistaken. That's it.
That wasn't right, because we all know that was me, and this was Anthony when we were out drinking.
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
Okay. I get it mixed up. I mean, Richard Donner, like Anthony said, he really shaped my life as far as like what I idolized as in a superhero, and that was Chris Reeve. And he could have gone with John Travolta, but he said, no, this up and coming person that nobody knows deserves a shot. So I'm glad that he made that decision, and it was really good. And he's the first person to sort of pave the way for the Snyder Cut, because we got the Donner cut 20 years after. Because he had issues with Warner Brothers, all kinds of stuff that happened back then, and he did not stay on to complete his film. So they chopped it up, made it Superman 1 and 2, and reshot some things, repurposed some things, sort of weeded it up back then. But I do like Richard Lester, who took over, and he made it a little bit more funny. But I am. But it was still fun, and when I was a kid, I didn't know any better, and so I dug all that. So he also made the Omen, which was another good movie.
Yes,
very
that
good.
I liked,
Yeah.
and yes, I mean, he's a man of many talents, and Lethal Weapon, all that. So Goonies, who could forget? I mean, again, thanks again for the Truffle Shuffle. So that's what I have to say about Richard Donner, man. Shouts out to Richard.
And I think that Dr. Fate was saying this towards you, Ryan. Come after me.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Okay. Didn't Anthony recently have a birthday?
I know. It's just funnier to direct that at you, really.
Okay.
Let's see here. But no, it truly is sad. And I mean, I watched Superman 2, I mean, so many times as a kid. So tell me really quick, Ryan. Tell me the difference between the Donner cut and the theatrical cut that we got from Warner Brothers. What was the major differences in those two?
Well, they repurposed a lot of the shots. Like the ending of Superman 1 was supposed to be the ending of Superman 2 when he sort of does that time travel. And he goes, he spins the world backwards and then forwards. That was supposed to be the culmination at the end of Superman 2. Terrence Stamp that played General Zod. He was actually supposed to, carry over, but his like if you saw the Donner cut, his version of General Zod was a little bit more ruthless than what you got in Superman 2. And they added a lot of, same thing like with Joss Whedon. They added a lot of levity and a lot of humor through Richard Lester in that, like the two cops, that were sitting in the car, in the town close to Houston or in East Houston, where they're talking about what they wanted to eat and all that, and then Non grabbed the light off of the top of the police car, and he was like, it glows red like our Krypton sun. Just different things like that. It was just that wasn't really where Richard Donner was headed. His was more, I don't want to say serious, but it wasn't such lighthearted as Richard Lester made it. And I think that's, like I said, it was Warner Brothers back then. It's Warner Brothers today. They feel like they know better, and I think that Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2 would have been better. I would have liked to have seen the differences between how Superman 1 was supposed to end, and just sort of like the journey that Richard Donner was going to take us on completely. There's a lot of stuff that he didn't get to shoot, and again, on the cutting room floor, they repurposed a lot of stuff just to make it make sense. And so that's pretty much everything that happened with Superman and Superman 2.
If I remember correctly, it was about 80% of principal photography Donner got done before they.
He did use, and that's why they used a lot of it in Superman 2.
Yeah.
I mean, he had shot a crap ton. But he got let go during production, during principal photography.
Yeah.
And so he didn't do any pickup shots, reshoots, additional photography, anything like that. He wasn't given that right privilege that I don't want to say that Zach was, because Zach didn't do any reshoots. All he did was a little bit of additional photography, and that was only for the nightmare sequence. So Zach was further along in his process and was actually able to come back and work with the footage. And they really, one of the things with Superman Returns is that they had to go and one of the things that Bryan Singer did was he went and hit up Richard Donner, because Warner Brothers wanted that continuation of that story. So they, instead of it following Superman 3 and 4, which are commonly, I don't want to say scrutinized, but not looked as fondly upon. I love them, but not looked as fondly upon as Superman 1 and 2. They were like, well, I want Superman Returns to follow up where Superman 2 ended up. Where Clark and Lois are in bed together. He already went through the chamber. They knocked boots, whatever. And then they got the Marlon Brando footage because they wanted some synergy between Superman 2 and Superman Returns. And the Marlon Brando estate said, okay, you can go ahead and use that footage, but we want X, Y, and Z. So that what they did was they dug up Richard Donner's cut. They gave us the Richard Donner,
dug up Marlon Brando,
sold it, and then used a lot of the proceeds for that to pay the Marlon Brando estate.
Okay. So you're saying that basically that Superman 1, so he was filming like a bigger movie basically. And they chopped up his movie into 2 movies.
Right. Before Back to the Future 2 and 3, before they started filming something, that of something of that magnitude, he was already doing that in 1976. He started principal photography because it came out in 77.
So he was shooting 1 and 2 together.
It came out in 78.
They were working off
and then Superman 2 came out
script.
in 80.
The script was the Superman 1 and 2. They were combined in one giant script. That's what they were working on.
And so he was shooting the whole massive, the whole story to cut down on production costs. So that they, because they had the actors signed, they had, all the sets built and things like that. Back then, it was a little bit more as far as like there were blue screens, but it wasn't to the effect that they are nowadays. So they had to build a lot of practical, a lot of models. A lot of the stuff was miniature. I mean, I love, the movies from back in that era, like, the Star Wars, Superman, Ghostbusters, all that, because they had to be really, it forced people to come up with creative solutions for problems because they wanted to achieve certain effects. Nowadays, you don't really have to do that. You just create it on the computer, pre-compose it, add it in layers, and nobody, who cares? They don't really do puppets, and they don't really do, a lot of practical effects, nowadays. They did for Star Wars, Episode 7, because they'd seen sort of, from the fans, they were like, we want to go back to that practicality, and that's awesome. And I think that they should do that. I think, we have so many creative people out there that can sort of bring some of this back into the fold and not rely so heavily on CG to, to accomplish whatever it is that they want. So, before Lord of the Rings, before Back to the Future, there was Richard Donner.
But why'd they? But why'd they fire him for? I mean, why did they decide to go in a different direction? I wonder.
It was between him and the Salkinds. And there is a documentary out there. I don't recall what it is, but it does go into description on what exactly happened. And I think it was they wanted to change something. Richard didn't like the direction that they wanted to go, so they said, "Okay, fine, we'll just let you go." And they did.
And Mario Puzo wrote the script for Superman, Godfather writer. How cool is that? No, and that's awesome. Yeah. So we got Phil Barker in the chat. What's up, Phil?
Hey, what's up, Phil?
But
we got Ryan Rivera in the chat. What up?
Ryan Rivera's in here as well. Woo, woo, woo.
2 places at once.
He's like the Flash.
Yeah.
But that's pretty crazy that in a sense that it's really revolutionary that he was going to shoot essentially 1 and 2. But I mean, was his plan to shoot 1 and 2 together and then cut it up into 2 movies, or was he going to shoot just one long ass? It was 2 movies, so he was already ahead of his time in terms of shooting back to back to cut down production costs. And then, like you said, later on we saw that in with Back to the Future. We saw that with a number of movies. So it sucks that unfortunately they had to fire him for probably creative differences. But I'm definitely gonna check that out. I don't know if I've seen the Donner cut yet. I mean, I hate saying that out loud, but I don't think that I have because I've seen Superman 1, I've seen Superman 2.
In the fucking stream right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Damn,
Okay, you know what? All right, you know what? This one's for me then. Okay, but I mean, going back to that, I mean, Superman 2, the battle that he had in Metropolis with Zod and the other two,
Non and
Ursa.
Yeah.
That was at the time. I mean, it stood the test of time because I mean that kind of fighting sequence, you didn't see that for the longest time on that kind of a scale.
Yeah.
I mean,
groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking. I mean, even after all that, when we saw, the Batman movies didn't do that because that wasn't what he was about. I mean, he didn't have superpowers like that.
I mean, you mentioned that sequence. I mean, when you saw like that one battle when they went down below into the sewers, it was Non and Superman, and then I guess there was an uppercut, and Superman sent Non flying through the concrete in through the buildings, and you saw the destruction. You know, and that's what was like, wow, this is, as you're a kid, you're like, damn, that's real.
Yeah, it's fucking fun.
Like that could have hurt that guy.
Yeah. One of my favorites was when I think it was Zod. He did like a drop kick on Superman, and he flew him into the Statue of Liberty. That's like that's like a moment I remember watching when I was little.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man, and it was so good because, at one point they grab Superman and they throw him and he flies into a bus, like,
yeah.
I remember I was like, wow, how'd they do that? Or he takes Non and he throws him. I think it was Non, or maybe it was Zod. He throws him and he flies into like the
Coca-Cola.
The Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
That was Zod. Yeah. That was Zod.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, that was so groundbreaking. I never seen anything like it. I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like this. I'm literally watching two superheroes fight, and I was a kid then too, so he was even more grand, Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I think that, in my opinion, you didn't see that type of scale again until we got something like a Man of Steel, because then you saw the destruction, you saw the consequences of having these abilities. When when Zod throws he throws Cal, and he goes through about like 5 buildings, like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, I think it's more than 5.
But like he keeps going and going and going and going. Yeah, and he hits another one. You're like, damn, he went hella far, and he goes right through the building. Then
Zod tackles him again. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you're just like, wow, like that's how strong these guys are. Like they'll just bust through like that many buildings. And think about how many people died. I mean, it's just it's insane. Batman doesn't have superpowers yet. Benches 1,000 pounds in the comics. What the fuck? I don't know. But he's a badass. Oh, we got Truth 31 in the chat. What's up, Truth?
Hey, what's up,
Truth?
It's because he's Batman. That's why.
It's because he's Batman. He's a badass.
Exactly.
But no, and then not to mention that, but the Lethal Weapon franchise. I mean, I love Lethal Weapon.
I do
especially
too.
Part 1 is great. Part 2 is good. They're all funny and they all have action. They're all good movies. I mean, they got a little silly as they went on, but the first one is badass. I think they're all good.
You probably sort of resonate or identify with Joe Pesci's character a little bit.
Leo gets.
Yeah. I see the parallels.
I don't know what you're talking about. Although what's always such a, like, it made me cringe. Like was I think it was in Part 2 when Mel Gibson what's his name, Riggs, when he gets that onion, he's like he's eating an onion like it's an apple. I was like, oh.
Was that in Part 2?
I was in one of them. It was in 2 or 3. I'm not sure. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know. But those are all really good movies, though. I fully enjoyed Lethal Weapon movies. They're really good. Yeah. And then not to mention the Goonies. I mean, that's a cult classic. I watched that like a million times, felt like, growing up. And I know, Allie, you said the same thing. Anthony, have you seen the Goonies?
I guess that's a no.
I mean, he
I think that's a no. He's like, what? He's like,
does he look like a bitch?
Have I seen the Goonies? What the? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the Goonies. Saw that shit in theaters, man. It's fire.
Damn, you saw it in the theater?
Yeah.
Fuck, I wish I would have seen the theater. That's badass, dude.
Yeah. No, the Goonies. Look, that's one of those movies where I'll never forget that. You know what I'm saying? Like that movie has so many like, dude. Josh Brolin was in that movie, fucking curling some irons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, yo,
Thanos was in that bitch.
Thanos was there.
Sweatpants shorts.
Yes.
Yeah, sweatpants shorts.
Sweatpants shorts.
Yeah,
He had the workout.
Oh, right, the coils.
The coils, yeah.
Yeah.
They tie him up with it. Hey, no!
No, you know, Anthony's the only one in the gym that still uses that shit. He's like, oh, Jesus. They're like, what's that guy doing? Don't bother him. He's fired.
Yeah, he's fired. He's fired.
And the only movie that Gene Hackman was not in was Superman 3. He was in Superman 4.
Yeah, he was.
And in Superman 3, they replaced the star power of Gene Hackman with Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
Yes.
Richard Pryor.
Oh my god, he
Superman
was
two
my
keys
favorite
at
part
the
about that
same
movie.
time.
I love.
That's my favorite line of the whole movie.
Look, here's a good question.
That crate of shots he had, man. Here's
I
Here's
love
a good
the
question.
little bar he had.
His little what?
His little bar. He brought the liquor for the
Yeah,
guy.
that's what that crate with all the shots.
Oh,
of liquor.
yeah. So here's a question from the Truth 31. He says Richard had planned to make Lethal Weapon 5. Maybe Gibson can direct in his honor. What do y'all think? What do you guys think? Should Mel Gibson direct Lethal Weapon 5?
Mel Gibson's a fire director.
I wouldn't mind seeing that at all.
The crazy shit that he says. He's a fire director.
Yeah. Yo,
The crazy shit that he says.
That's not a bad idea.
He's a visionary. He could do it.
He could.